Hi, I'm Dr. Bonnie Nish, Executive Director of Word Vancouver. I want to welcome you to our first ever Hybrid Festival. We're thrilled this year to be back in person after 2 long years of being online. We're hopeful that you're going to find the diverse programming that we've set out for you be something that you can find something of enjoyment, something that will educate you, something you can have fun with, bring your family to, bring a book to, and wander around and meet all kinds of authors. We want to also take a moment to thank all those sponsors who make this possible every year. The Canada Arts Council, Canada Book Fund, Canada Periodical Fund, Canada Heritage Fund, BC Gaming, Joseph Walks Foundation, the Hamver Foundation, DVBIA, and so many more. We also want to thank Penguin Random House for coming on board to make sure that we could have ASL interpreters on site this year as well. Please stop by, bring a book, find a book, say hello, and enjoy the day.
Hi there. My name is Dave Seaweed, and I'm the Indigenous Coordinator at Douglas College. I am from the Kwakiutl Nation, born and raised in East Vancouver. My father and his father before him are from Port Hardy in Alert Bay. I would like to acknowledge that I'm sharing with you today on the Kakite First Nation, which is the New Westminster Band, and thank Chief Rhonda Larrabee for supporting our work at Douglas College. As is my understanding, the Word Vancouver Festival spread throughout the Lower Mainland and Fraser Valley and online throughout North America and beyond. I would also acknowledge the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, Kwantlen, Katzie, and Coquitlam nations. We acknowledge that we are on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, where we live, we learn, we play, and we do our work. 95% of British Columbia, including Vancouver, is on unceded traditional First Nations territory. Unceded means that First Nations people never ceded or legally signed away their lands or gave them away to the Crown or to Canada. I have been asked why we acknowledge First Nations territory. Many organizations, governments, and school districts have adopted the practice of acknowledging traditional territories as a way to honor and show respect to the Aboriginal inhabitants of this land, the First Peoples. This practice enables wider municipal communities to share in Aboriginal cultures and leads to better relationships and understandings. Observing this practice connects participants with the traditional territory and provides a welcoming atmosphere to the land where people are gathering. We believe that acknowledging territory is a positive step towards reconciliation, which involves a commitment to learning about and understanding the real history of Canada's Aboriginal peoples and taking responsibility for reconciliation with Aboriginal peoples in Canada. The process of reconciliation is tied to the federal government's relationship with Indigenous peoples. The term has come to describe attempts made by individuals and institutions to raise awareness about colonization and its ongoing effects on Indigenous peoples. I would encourage you all, young and old, to do a little research about where you live, work, or go to school, and in turn, find out what First Nations territory you are on so you can acknowledge when asked or for sharing at events. I wanted to conclude by mentioning the September 30th national holiday that began last year as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th. In First Nations communities, we have been honoring Orange Shirt Day since 2013. The origins for the day come from a story about Phyllis Webstad's experience. She went to the mission for one school year in 73 and 74. She had just turned 6 years old and lived with her grandmother on the Dog Creek Reserve. They never had very much money, but somehow her grandmother managed to buy her a new outfit to go to the mission school. She remembers going to the store, picking out a shiny orange shirt. It had string laced up in front and was so bright and exciting, just like she felt to be going on to school. When she got to the mission, they took away her clothes, including the orange shirt. She never wore it again. She didn't understand why they wouldn't give it back to her. The color orange has always reminded her of that and how her feelings didn't matter, how no one cared, and how she felt like she was worth nothing. All of the little children were crying and nobody cared. We now wear orange shirts that always say, "Every child matters." I would encourage you all to wear orange shirts on September 30th and become an ally and partner for First Nations folks dealing with the residential school findings. I'm wishing you all the best during your time with Word Vancouver 2022. Stay strong and stay safe. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. I'm Isabella Mori, a founder of Muriel's Journey Poetry Prize. I'm coming to you as a guest today at the ancestral, traditional, and unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, and I'm grateful for the stewardship they have given to this land for thousands of years. May we learn from them, and really fast, how to honor the planet Earth. So some preliminaries. Your mic and video will not be turned on. If you want to show your appreciation, please type it into the chat. Also, if you're interested in purchasing books, you can buy them through Iron Dog Books. And of course, without you, this free festival could not happen. If you haven't already, please consider making a donation via the link in the chat. Adam is our wonderful tech guy. Do you want to make a comment about the comments that you make and how they will show up?
Hi, yeah, sure. Any comments that you make will show up. I can bring them up on screen, and we'll so make sure to be in those comments and make your thoughts known.
Wonderful, thank you. And it's great to see that we can see Adam as well, because without people like Adam, we wouldn't be able to do this. So we will start with a land acknowledgement that was done by our patron saint, Muriel Marjorie. So she had done a land acknowledgement as part of another event that she was part of with a friend, and that friend has very generously allowed us to show the land acknowledgement. So Adam, if you could please put that up.
So I'm doing this as I received a grant through the Vancouver Foundation, and so this is my celebration, and I'm doing poetry and photography. So the photography, it's mine, and the rest is another exhibit. And tonight I want, and at the front, that's right. And Muriel, who's also a poet, will do a welcome because we're on, come up here, Muriel. Muriel is a fellow writer, so go ahead.
Okay, is there anybody here from the Coast Salish Nations? Okay, I'm not Coast Salish, though. 2 Coast Salish sisters spotted 2 of my brothers, and woo! Now I have relatives.
All right.
So my mother is from the Gitxsan Nation, which is by the Hazeltons, if you're looking on the map. And my dad was conceived in England, made in England, born in Canada, Friday the 13th. And my mom, we're matrilineal, so my heritage comes from my mother. And the Fireweed clan, and then there's a sub-clan, which is the Whale clan. And then there's a clan that's part of that, which is the Owl clan. So that is what I'm from. So some people, if you're of a different First Nations, it's like always, so just to let you know, Friday the 13th in the Owl clan. And so I would like to thank the First Nations people on whose territory we are on, who the Creator gave in all the Creator's wisdom and all the Creator's heart. This unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, Capilano, and Tsleil-Waututh, because there must be more over there. And we give thanks to them because even though I am First Nations, I am not of this nation. And so I too am a visitor here, and I'm very grateful. Good to see you all here too. And look, my friend, I met over here too. Yay!
Thank you. So,
now. Thank you. Okay, so here we are. So that was our friend Muriel. This is the 4th year of Muriel's Journey Poetry Prize. It's very exciting. For those of you new to this, let me tell you a little bit about the prize. Muriel Marjorie was a social justice activist and a poet and a spoken word artist of Indigenous heritage from the Gitxsan Nation's Owl Clan, who spent a lot of time in the Downtown Eastside. In her work, she always explored new ways of expressing herself, always talked and wrote about what's urgent and important, and her energy was like fireworks. And maybe you saw a little bit of that in the video. And her hugs were legendary. Muriel died in November of 2018. At Muriel's memorial at the Downtown Eastside's listening post, someone quoted Muriel from her last days when she said that while she was leaving, she was still continuing her journey. They also held up a picture of the sunrise on the day she died. And I was really moved by this to do my part in Muriel's continued journey and decided to start a poetry prize in her honor. When I shared this idea with a few other people at the memorial, the response was enthusiastic, and it continues to be enthusiastic. Whoever we talk to about this, and anyone who knew Muriel or knew about her is always very excited about what we're doing here. And everybody liked her. She encouraged creative people of all stripes to continue on their path of creativity and social justice. And with Muriel's Journey Poetry Prize, we hope to pass on inspiration and strength to all who create with a sense of justice in mind. And because Muriel always did things a little differently, we're doing this poetry prize a little differently too. One thing was that we were keenly aware of how subjective the judging of poetry can be. So we decided to give a prize to a poem randomly selected from the long list of those who met the entry requirement of lively, outspoken ideas, speak your mind, let the world know what you think, look at your subject in an unexpected way, take risk in your composition, and be frank and unreserved. Another change is our entry fee, which consists of people showing how they contribute to their community. And finally, we have 2 first prizes, a general one and one for a poet who has important connections with Vancouver's Downtown Eastside. The prize is open to all people living in Canada as well as to Canadians living abroad. Many, many thanks to Kyle Hawk, who is actually here as well, who was my partner in crime and who will again put together a chapbook, actually has already put together a chapbook of this year's poetry. Thanks also to Tova Mori, who administered the poems as they came in. That's quite a bit of work. And the judges, each of them have a long list of accomplishments, and I'll just mention one each. Heidi Greco, a writer of many things, including poetry, was honored in 2017 by the city of Surrey by being officially proclaimed as one of their civic treasures. Gilles Sirven, of course, also a poet, is another treasure in the Downtown Eastside, where he has been a director of the Carnegie Center Board for many years. And finally, there's Wanda Kehiwen Jones, a literary performer, poet, children's book author, and screenwriter for the Cree Nation. So let's see, we have a bunch of poems. We have Brad Aykroyd, Janet Quammen, Jacqueline Pierce, Dave Olson, Camila Rina, and Natasha Sanders Kay, who will all read their wonderful work. Last time we checked in, Brad wasn't in yet. Maybe he is in now, but I'm prepared to introduce Janet right now, if that's okay. Janet, I will ask you to introduce you in terms of which territory you're from, but also Janet is a poet and visual artist who actually also did the front cover for our chapbook, so I can't wait to see that. And she volunteers on the local literary and arts scene she's a coordinator and host of reading events and writing contests and workshops and art exhibits and other cultural adventures. She is such a busy, busy, busy woman. So, Janet, are you ready to tell us which territory you're from and read your beautiful work, which is the first prize?
Oh, wow. Yes, I'm coming from the Kakite First Nation here in New Westminster, the Coast Salish people. So, yes, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much, Isabella, and thank you to Kyle and to the judges. It's just, I'm so thrilled. So, my poem that I'm going to read is a glossa. So I just wanted to mention a little bit about what a glossa is. It's a form poem traditionally made up of 4 10-line stanzas with a particular rhyme scheme and repetition, and the 4-line quatrain acting as the epigraph that I've chosen for my poem was by P.K. Page, who's a well-known writer of glossas. So my poem today is dedicated to my mom, and it is called A Morning Obad. Gray with illness and with age, a silver point against the pillow's white shone suddenly like the sun before you died. Evening Dance of the Gray Flies by P.K. Page. Before you died, I didn't notice their flight or see their shimmering blue pale against a golden ambered dawn. In the end, did you see them too? Fleeting dancers alight on a sky of gilded cage. Their iridescence captures the eye, and we're not alone. It was October then, its face faded by grief and rage, gray with illness and with age. And now years of yesterdays suddenly triggered. PTSD shudders, flashback horror, a blood-splattered sink, radioactive days and sleepless voids, counting your breaths while holding mine, words whispered to the dead. Making it through another night, the cold house burrowed deep into bone. We must turn another page. Winter's coming light, a silver point against the pillow's white. Still, we have the happy years and the lost years. That last summer when you came back for a little while, laughing in the weeds, and we planted seeds of a trip that we both knew would never come. Before the cancer spread and madness came undone, fluttering as wings of thunder in the chest. That way, you called me sweetheart at the end, and all my hopes outrun, shone suddenly like the sun. As once I was a small child, safe on my mother's lap, but I was 34, exactly half your age. A lifetime passed in that golden hour, and a week later, you were gone. The gospel of Elvis played at your bedside. You send dragonflies to remind me of the things I need to believe. White and blank as pain. Even the stars cried before you died. Thank you. That's a difficult one for me to read the first time and to share it publicly. Thank you so much for choosing it for the first place. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a little more autobiographical than I usually write. So that was my challenge coming into this contest. I wrote this special for the contest, and yeah, so there you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I have no words. I'm kind of choked up. Okay. It looks like Brad, who won the first prize for the Downtown Eastside, hasn't shown up yet. I think what we'll do is we will hopefully have him perform at the end if he shows up. If not, I will have the honor of reading his poem. Let us go on to the second prize, which is our lovely Jackie Pierce. Jackie also actually not only got the second prize, but also an honorable mention, and will read both of her poems. She is a poet and children's book author. In her writing and editing, Jackie attempts to encourage cross-cultural and environmental awareness and inclusiveness. Her most recent book for children, What Animals Want, is a nonfiction exploration of animal welfare issues, including intersections related to human welfare. Jackie is a past board member of the Georgia Strait Alliance, is active in supporting haiku poets, and is currently working on a cooperative project to research and translate haiku poems written in Japanese-Canadian internment camps. And I've had the great pleasure of working on a part of that project with her as well. Okay, Jackie, please tell us which territory you're from, and please read your two beautiful poems.
Thanks, Isabella. I really appreciate being part of this poetic community that Muriel's journey has brought together. And I'm living and working on the territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And I also want to acknowledge my roots in the Cowichan Valley with the Cowichan First Nations. And the first poem I'm going to read is called Lost Girls, and it's a haibun, which is a Japanese form originally, which brings together prose juxtaposed with a haiku. So you'll hear a pause at the end and then the haiku. Lost Girls. Last night, I dreamed my earlobes were smooth and unmarked by the piercing holes I've had since I was 13. I wake to a flash of memory from pre-adolescence, like the wink of sunlight on a drifting spider's thread, there, then gone. I searched my reflection in the bathroom mirror for something of that early confidence and sense of possibility, when my imagination pulled towards magic doorways and pirate adventures, and I was better at climbing trees than all the boys, before everything changed, as with so many young women. Sometimes I imagine her there, reaching out for me, the girl before I had scars. Bird song. There was a language I used to know. The second poem is basic free verse, and it's about a woman I know, sort of a composite of a couple different people. China Creek. My friend, a single mother, bought a house near China Creek Park, in a city where only decades ago a woman could not buy a house without a man co-signing. Her daughter asks, why is it named China? And where is the creek? Before the 1900s, 60 kilometers of streams converged at Clark Drive and East 11th, fed into Trout Lake and False Creek Inlet. Salmon spawned, boys fished. Chinese immigrants worked small farms on land leased from a settler from England. My friend and her daughter clear a space for a garden in their small backyard, pull weeds, turn soil, prepare it for seeds, imagine carrots, potatoes, bok choy, gailan. The creek crossed Broadway, flowed north to East 7th through a deep ravine, became a garbage dump, a bad smell, a health risk, until the city culverted, covered, and almost forgot it. My friend plants tiny carrot seeds and potato eyes while her daughter digs something deeper, first with her hands, dirt under the nails, then a shovel, digging, she says, all the way to China Creek. The sound of traffic from Great Northern Way almost drowns the memory of the stream's estuary and the shores of the inlet pushed back and tucked away for over a century. In the basement of my friend's house, built in 1916, she unearths the original deed with the carefully inked words, "Must not sell to Orientals." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Yes, that last sentence, "must not sell to Orientals." Jackie is a wonderful historian. That's one of the ways I know her. So thank you for putting part of Vancouver history into this beautiful poem. Next up, we have Dave Olson, who, what does he say about himself? Dave says he's still Canadian, now living on generational land in a mostly overlooked corner of provincial Japan with his arborist and jazz singer wife. And he's being an old dad to a remarkable toddler with a middle name of Stanley to remind of a park. From a studio in a repurposed storehouse, he endeavors to inspire communities through personal archaeology projects, copious correspondence, and fondly supporting friends in foreign lands who have helped me along my healing journey. His creative life archive is at daveostory.com, DAVEOSTORY.com. And Dave, please give us your poem.
Good morning from tomorrow in Okayama, Japan. I'm very pleased to be here and proud to be a participant. I want to give a special hello to all the folks who are shut-ins or generally have a hard time getting out to events. It's so great that this can be online so many more people can enjoy. And also special salutations and respect to our First Nations hosts who are hosting the land that originates this event. My poem is called Alchemists Confer with Hypnotists, and one point I'll make is there's the word in here, dubbies, which is a Jamaican word for ghosts. Alchemists confer with hypnotists. Varying days of bliss and malaise. I'm busy these days chasing the dubbies away. When the ache nears and the break comes and light becomes a haze, your soul is so faded, no hiding, so worn. The alchemists confer and deny the hypnotist's clinical opinions, retorting he simply needs more magnesium injected directly into his bones. The past life regressions of painters and pirates offered no evidence, only barroom stories when posted up envisioning a distant version of yourself. Generate kinetic watts from my broken soul, frantic heart, and coiled brain. Anxiety, I've got plenty to power all of Iowa, roller rinks and all. So please, won't you deplete me, save me from me, and help me, tell me to sleep? And you'll insist on my compliance fading into ease. Thank you again to all the people who put this fantastic event together. Much respect, yoroshiku onegai shimasu from Tsuchida, Okayama, Japan. Fondly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. It's really exciting to have people from other countries too. Interestingly enough, last year we also had someone who partly lives in Japan. So that was interesting. Okay. Next up, we have Camila Rena, and I'm terribly sorry, Camila. I cannot find your bio. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, which territory you're on, and how you contribute to the community, I would very much appreciate that.
Hi. So currently I live in Toronto, known in English as Toronto, which is on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, who are part of the larger Anishinaabe Nation, and the Huron-Wendat, who are part of the Haudenosaunee Nation, and all of those nations passed through here and shared this land under the Dish with One Spoon Treaty. I am a poet and an educator by profession, and I contribute to my community by doing a lot of accessibility organizing. I am multi-disabled, and I see so much need for accessibility work, so that is often what I end up doing as volunteer work. And I have also been involved in tenants' rights organizing, planning alternatives to policing, and doing free community education on topics like disability and consent. I'll be sharing 2 poems today that won an honorable mention in this contest. Adam, if you could share the screen, thank you so much. The first one is a glossa, like Janet's poem, so it will again start with a quatrain borrowed from another poet, in this case Dion Brand, who is also an amazing Canadian poet. And the first poem is titled Frosh, alluding to the fact that it refers to events that happened in my first year of university. Something simple. Each sentence realized or dreamed jumps like a pulse with history and takes a side. What I say in any language is told in faultless knowledge of skin, in drunkenness and weeping. From No Language is Neutral by Dion Brand. I heard you and those 2 boys coming down the dorm hallway from far away. I got a bad feeling from the volume, the swagger in their voices, and then a worse feeling as you all paused by my door. Inside, I held my breath and tiptoed over, looked through the peephole, saw them intently poring over the pinned up posters, sniggering, you standing by with a confused, smug look, then tipping over into confidence, telling them a story, something simple. Each sentence realized or thrown out thoughtlessly in your eagerness to please, I couldn't tell. You were discussing my queerness as if a class of insects, a thing vastly unusual, bizarre, wholly unconnected to lives you might be leading or living beside. My body slowly went cold as I listened. And then you threw out the hook, a triumphant sentence. You know, Z has a thing for me. My ribs curled in painfully, protectively. Everything I'd barely acknowledged, overlooked as dreamed, jumped like a pulse with history and took a frightened gulp of air. Because, yes, I did have a crush on you. I'd tried so hard to keep it hidden, and there you were, spilling it to strangers like cheap coffee. And they hissed delightedly hearing it. You'd just given them an excuse to let their inner assholes off the leash. For a moment, I still feared assault less than the humiliation of you knowing this, gossiping about it. But that changed as they muttered and milled in front of my door, scraping something on the message side. What I say in any language is told with faultless precision, carved by years of xenophobic bullying and my sharp intelligence. This will serve me later when I tell the story to our floor mates and confront you all in short, clear words. I had thought we'd understood each other. 2 almost cousins from Eastern Europe, rape survivors, immigrant-shamed femmes. But after you 3 leave and I see the seeping "I bash queers" scrawled on my door in purple marker, I sit down hard, listen to Johnny and Betty on repeat, think of you hugging the toilet last Friday, hug my knees, creeping with knowledge of skin, drunkenness, and weeping. The second poem is called Sneaking Out. We escaped toward the end of September, in broad daylight, on a plane, collecting tickets we had paid for. We were, it is true, lucky. We flew on one passport with a group photo, one dark-haired, firm-nosed adult flanked by matching teenager and tween, left ears exposed. The plane was an old gray Soviet machine, a twin to the one from the crash in May. There had been no survivors. Not even the plane. It had dispersed like rain from the burning sky. Damp, still bodies had been found nestled in the spikes of hawthorn trees. My mother prayed through all 8 hours of the endless afternoon as we hurtled through time zones. We were still lucky. So lucky. We brought our belongings, what they had permitted us to take, what we guessed we'd need, what we could afford to fit in just 3 brown and gray suitcases. We left the rest behind, to cradle someone else's feet now, to fit their lip edge. We cried over heirlooms needing government permission for export. Getting permits would certainly tip them off. We saw doctors at night for private appointments to secure the required lab work and official medical forms. We avoided eye contact with everyone else in the dim waiting rooms. We hoped none of us would give up each other's names. Though we gossiped quietly, insularly. That family over there, this is their 3rd round of paperwork. They didn't make it out the other times. We sold our apartment back to the housing co-op. They rated it 90% outworn, which let them keep 90% of our money while still not needing to renovate it for the tenants buying in. We liquidated our small savings accounts. We couldn't take cash out of the country, so we bought some jewelry and a set of fancy dishes and a fur coat and plane tickets and a hand-woven wool blanket. We gave away our beloved ugly yellow car and washing machine. Even worse, we gave away my beautiful raspberry-colored shoes. We could only pack a handful of books, and I agonized over which printed friends to bring, which to abandon, never to reunite. Our new home did not publish in this language. I had regrets about Opium w Rosole and Avpatafi nie bardzo for years. We pretended we were going for a visit until the last moment, when we had sponsored visas in hand and our lives in 3 suitcases. At that last moment, we said goodbye to friends, coworkers, classmates, even those whom we hadn't liked very much. Then we went to be interrogated for hours in the cold belly of the airport. Saw our belongings rejected and given away for fantastical reasons. Heard the new dishes smash on the black conveyor belt, possibly a retaliation for having had so little to steal. We got on the defective plane, clutched hands, prayed. To be precise, my mother did. We kids just watched with anxiety the movements of her lips keeping us in the air. They didn't stop. We didn't stop. We didn't rain down from the sky. We tiptoed onto someone else's soil, Algonquin Nation, I learned later, fumbling in both official languages. We were so lucky. Thank you.
Camila, you have me choked up too. And I want to run out and buy your raspberry colored shoes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Natasha. Natasha is in her 10th year of volunteering on Subterranean Magazine's editorial collective, publishing progressive content from a rich variety of emerging writers. Natasha launched the Magazine Association of BC's Inclusiveness in Publishing initiative and has also served on the front lines of causes like land and water protection, stopping demo evictions, and supporting women and survivors of sexualized violence. Natasha, please tell us which territory you're on, and then give us the pleasure of your poem.
Thank you. I'm coming to you from the unceded and ancestral lands of the Hunkaminam and Squamish-speaking peoples, which, as far as I know, includes the Hulkaminam Treaty Group and Musqueam, Stuminus, Kikite, Stolo, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. My apologies for any mispronunciations. Thank you for having me. Before I read what I'm calling my dishonorable mention, I want to thank the judges and Isabella Mori and Muriel's Journey, Kyle Hawk of Three Ocean Media for making our chapbook, Word Vancouver and Vancouver Public Library for having us, and Tim and Adam for technical support, and of course the late Muriel Marjorie. I never had the pleasure of meeting her, but thanks to this, I feel like I sort of know her. I'd also like to thank Fatima Amarshi, whose editorial and emotional support was so very helpful through early iterations of this poem. And thank you to anyone who has ever told me to be kind to myself. Here goes. Activist Anonymous. I've made mistakes. What to do when it doesn't fall under selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, or scared? What if it's something else? I've said the wrong things, used the wrong pronouns, appropriated in rainbow hair extensions and problematic poems. I fought for an accessible venue but didn't open the door, planned a panel during a nervous breakdown, didn't tell speakers that part about no pay. See, I'd rather note I was in crisis than admit this was no first-time omission, only the first time someone said something. I volunteered for a controversial women's shelter, you know the one, and a controversially named march, you know the one. Because of my politics, power, privilege, people have felt unsafe in my presence. So have I. Old tools, scissors, knives, pills, pot. New tools, pen, paper, assurance, not important enough to be canceled. Braid, glitter, pipe cleaner, call it shame, practice touching it. Chenille squiggles my cats will snatch. Exhale. Bear my mistakes, bear my mistakes, air my errors. Gather broken glass, construct a crown, put it on, feel the weight, then lift it off. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Natasha. It's so interesting to hear you say this poem. I've read it numerous times, of course, and it just kind of gets more color and more texture and more three-dimensionality with your reading. And I want to say to all of you, I think you're all amazing readers. So, a lot of poets are great on paper, and then when they read, it's also interesting, but maybe not that interesting. But all of you are like really, really great readers. Thank you. Unfortunately, our first Downtown Eastside poet has not made it here, so I will try and my best to make justice to do justice to his poem. So it's Brad Aykroyd also goes under the name William sometimes. He says that he currently lives on the territory of the ancestral and unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. He contributes by writing about his experience, current and past, and the people he meets that influence his understanding of the community and his heritage as a Canadian of Japanese and European descent. He has been a literacy educator, service worker, volunteer, player manager of the Oppenheimer Park Pirates, and president of the Downtown Eastside Slow Pitch League. And the latter is what this poem is partly about. It's called Haya Haya. Haya Haya, thank you, Creator, for all the good people in this world. Began the prayer Fred sang and drummed to each morning in his room at the Pennsylvania. Fittingly, because Fred Albert Aarons, longtime resident of the Downtown Eastside, elder, teacher, brother from another mother, taught me how to love and respect others. Born in St. Boniface, Manitoba, oh, and now my poem has gone away. Just a second. Why did it do that? It's so funny. I thought I had to kind of help people with their poems, and now I'm the one who gets stuck. Born in St. Boniface, Manitoba, Fred, like his Cree Métis ancestors, was a survivor. Age 10, ran away to downtown Vancouver, spent first night sleeping on the steps of Carnegie. Ward of Children's Aid 11 to 17, group homes, gangs, graduation from the streets, learning who to trust and how not to get caught. Fred lost 13 members of his family to substance abuse, violence on the streets. Decided to spend his life connecting his people to the land, spirituality, and culture. Believed recreational and cultural activities, alternatives to alcohol, drugs, a way to heal. As a youth activities worker, Fred led groups canoeing the Bowron Lakes chain, wading in mud on the West Coast Trail. Fred's passion was slow-pitch softball. His team, the Spartans, were stalwarts of the Downtown Eastside Slow Pitch League. Fred recruited players walking down the street. His pitch, "Hey, you look like you play ball," often said, "Down here, there isn't much to entertain. Watching or playing ball is what people love to do." What fired Fred up was a fight for a voice with the institutions and organizations, stating, "We are recipients rather than participants in deciding how money meant for us to spend." Fred formed a nonprofit society, WAND, West Coast Aboriginal Network on Disabilities. WAND worked to raise awareness, money for cultural activities, always with the motto, do things in a good way, everything will work out. WAND members used their connections with other organizations to provide opportunities, camping trips hosted by the Squamish Nation. Participants shared traditions, witnessed firsthand impact of industry on the nation's land and water. In the Downtown Eastside, everywhere evidence of Fred's benevolence, influence on the community. WAND applied for a $10,000 grant, seed money for the memorial pole in Oppenheimer Park. Don Larson, Fred, homeless folks in 60 tents, spent 75 days protesting to create Crab Park. In the park, inscribed on a heart-shaped rock, Fred's poem, aptly titled Urban Indian. Founding member of Crab Water for Life. Canada Day, Crab engages entertainers, hosts a barbecue, hot dogs and potato salad. At Christmas, throws a party at Raycam, Santa gifts, kids gifts, volunteers serve dinner. Working at the Aboriginal Frontier Society, connected with elders and other East Siders, with family, friends, every Valentine's Day distributed flowers, food, coffee, water for people in a circle at Hastings and Maine, protesting, dealing with loss and pain. When Fred left us, we gathered to celebrate. He, dressed in a Spartan jersey, remembered by loved ones with tributes, drumming, women's warrior, and going home songs. Now, when I hear the cry of eagles circling, recall a teaching Fred passed on to me. Eagles are ancestors watching over us, guiding us, helping us to stay on the red road. Always, I thank Creator for Fred and all the good people, all my relations. So that was Brad. We are actually going to have an event on November 5th with Heart in the City, and hopefully Brad can read his poem at that point, because his poem will be infused with all his experiences, all his wonderful memories of his friend, and it would be lovely to hear that. So here we are. We have about 10 minutes left. I'm just going to quickly look at the comments. I wonder if I can see anything here. Let me just read a few of the comments because they're so lovely. Jessica says, wow, Janet, the house into bone, so vivid and touching, which is lovely. And she also says to Natasha, wow, what a sensitive journey in such an economical and impactful way. And Shauna says, wonderfully honest and beautiful poem, Natasha. RGS, I'm not quite sure who that is raising a glass to you and your talent. Thank you for those lovely comments. Maybe we can all get on the screen now. If we can do that. Is great. Is Kyle still here? Yay, Kyle. I know that your sound is a little weird, but you want to try and say a few words? I know you're in the car. You somehow made it possible to show up. If you want to say a few words, that would be wonderful, but I can also understand if you can't do that. Well, oh, here he might be coming. Drum roll. Well, maybe it's not working. But at least it's great to see your face, Kyle. Kyle Hawk is an amazing poet in his own right, and he is the one who is my partner in crime. So one of the things that we do is that we sort through all of the poems and then find 30 poems that we give to the judges to look at. And this is where all of these wonderful poems come from. Does anyone want to say anything?
I would like to say thank you. Thank you again.
Yeah.
It's so fabulous. I feel so honored to be included in this amazing little chapbook that's coming out with all of you. I mean, your poetry is all so amazing. I can't believe it. I just feel so wonderful about it. Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I say thank you to Isabella for your gentle guidance through all of this, and a personal thank you for always letting me know so I can keep my connections across the Pacific and feel part of the community. It's really appreciated and acknowledged.
Thank you.
Can I just say how lovely it is to just feel like we're in shared space with ancestors, like Muriel's presence of her spirit, and then a number of the poems were about those who have passed. And then the comment from Shauna Klein to me saying, saying Rocky holds up his glass to me. Rocky was my grandfather, so I'm feeling connected to him and to people I didn't even know. And so thank you all for making this so special.
Cheers. Yeah. I think we have a lot of people watching over us right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's very meaningful to me. I've had a lot of people pass away this year, and so I've been thinking a lot about ancestors as well. So yes, hello ancestors. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, I'm realizing that the part of my bio that I didn't talk about was about being from a Jewish family from Eastern Europe, and ancestors are very important to us. So I'm very definitely feeling that vibe too.
Also, with Jackie there, want to welcome our Japanese ancestors, who are ancestors in many different ways. One way of talking about ancestors is, of course, simply everyone who has passed away, and working with Jackie on the amazing poetry of the people who were interned during World War II has been wonderful. So I want to say hello to those ancestors as well.
And I just wanted to mention that I was doing research at Nikkei Archives this week, and some of the Japanese Canadians there were saying that they play on baseball teams with people in the Downtown Eastside at Oppenheimer Park.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm getting an echo, but so it's great to hear that sort of that connection with Fred's baseball team and the Japanese and people who were living in that community before internment.
Well, well, I just Isabella, I just wanted to say about how with Muriel Marjorie, how Natasha, when we had previously had our little test session, it felt like we had met her before, but I don't think we have. But it's just I have a feeling that I have met her. She has that influence on me, and I just wanted to thank you for keeping her memory alive, and thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for being part of this community. That's really what we're striving for, is to slowly kind of like build a community of those who participate in this event. I also want to thank Word Vancouver again. It's been wonderful to work with Bonnie Nish and of course our awesome Talkative people. And so please, there's lots more events happening. Check out the complete listing. And I'm actually going to be performing something on the 25th in person. And here is Brad.
Yay!
Brad. It's great that you made it. It's over. I tried to read your poem, which I did, but I'm sure you would have done a way better job. But how lovely to see you in person. Do you want to say a few words? Maybe turn on your mic.
No, click the unmute icon at the bottom of your screen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can hear me? Oh. Okay. Yes, actually, I was quite gratified to hear what you were talking about. My mother, actually, I'm part Japanese, and my mother was actually one of the internment survivors. She's 85 now. And like I said, Oppenheimer Park is a spiritual place for a lot of people. Ironically, I played in the Downtown Eastside League for about 10 years, never knowing the history of Oppenheimer Park,
Oh,
but I
wow.
was feeling so connected. And
Wow.
so it was just in the last 10 or 12 years that that connection for myself and that community, and also for First Nations people who are just like Fred. You know, I was kind of adopted into Fred's family. And so, like I said, you know, it's kind of sad to go by now because they put a line of trees across the park. And so there's really no baseball to speak of now. Yeah.
We need to, unfortunately,
Yep.
we need to finish now. It's
Yep.
wonderful that you showed up.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Mm.